you're still just a product. But if we want to really connect and have that long-term brand loyalty and differentiate ourselves versus other recovery products and other tart cherry juice brands, like that's where, right, that keeps, you meet us out in the world, you try our products, you see how it fits into your life. That then starts to have this really meaningful impact that gives us that ability to scale. And for you to also want to talk about Cheribundi or wear our merch or do these other things that, help us grow versus just being another product.
I've had a lot of conversations on this podcast and also offline about how much money is coming into running right now. And there are brands and people that say, excuse female, excuse millennial, excuse well-educated and high household income compared to the average American. Like that's the ideal buying persona for most things, right? So of course it makes sense to want to advertise, want to market, want to partner with these organizations or companies or groups or people or athletes. And so I think we have a responsibility in protecting I don't want to say integrity, but authenticity of it. There are a couple of ways to come in and partner with properties or assets in a space, right? You can come from a performance marketing side of things and look at meta spend and look at sponsorships and look at, return on ad spend. You can look at brand marketing. Cheribundi seems to have taken a brand marketing focus with some performance marketing. We've had a marketing partnership with For the Long Run in years past. And it's just interesting when a brand leads with brand marketing because you can be more creative, you can be more fun, you can tell stories. Let's start by having you define, how do you think about brand marketing? And we'll go from there.
Yeah. So, I think that, right, and you're always going to have this push-pull with both, right? I think that the way that we've approached the running community has really been around brand and building community, right? Trying to go into a community that, like, recovery is important. Cheribundi helps solve one of those problems and is a great solution for that. And so, right, at the core, it was like, hey, how do we, like, get this solution in front of people, but also, like, not be, like, salesy or pushy or, right, like, just some, like, product placement. Like, hey, we're runners. We found a lot of value in this. We work with a lot of athletes that use the product all the time. This could be really beneficial to you, especially as you find yourself in those deep, dark holes of marathon and half marathon training when everything hurts and you got to do it again tomorrow. And so there was that piece of it too. And I think that, like, right, building community, building this loyalty, and especially for emerging brands, having that meaning, that authenticity behind the brand that as a consumer, you want to latch on to. Hey, I like to be a part of the Cheribundi brand. I like what they represent, and I think that is really important. Right. And then you also then have, like, the performance side, which always, like, from a financial perspective it's right. You can prove that out. I have a 3-row ads. I spent this much on Meta. You see the results immediately, right? Because you can track all that. Whereas, like, this is harder to track, and it leads to a lot of questions. Is this the right investment? Should we be investing so much over here? Should we move more of this into performance spend? But I think at the same time, right, like, you need both, and they need to complement each other. And we've just known that, like, our everyday athlete and the everyday healthlete is very active, and the running community is one of those that, like, right, there's 18,000 races that happen in the United States a year. Run clubs are popping up all over the place. The communities are super welcoming and friendly. If you just show up and try to match that energy, right? Which isn't always easy. It's hard when you walk into, a group of 50 strangers,
right,
and you're about to get your ass kicked in a track workout, and you're like, oh, all right, well, let's get it, right? Like, you talk to some people along the way. And so those pieces have kind of come together of we've looked at lots of different communities, throughout the course of the time, because really anybody can use Cheribundi. It's great for gout. It's got all these solutions, and even I think we look at, like, our grocery consumer that tends to be a little bit different. And that, you don't think, a lot of people don't think to go down the juice aisle for their sports performance recovery.
Unless you're on that high carb game.
Yeah.
In which case, juice is great.
Yeah. And so for us, like, we have a big D2C business. Amazon's been growing, but then, like, our run stores have really grown throughout the course of showing up authentically with the run clubs. The feed was one of those really cool early proof points where it was on this target list for, like, hey, let's get into the feed. And we weren't on their radar. And then we showed up to Hood to Coast Big one year, and they had a team out there, and they were one of the sponsors as well. And we ran into their team out there and, like, hey, let's talk on Monday. So on Monday, after, like, months of figuring out how do we get into the feed, and like kind of like felt like, all right, we're a little stuck. They were also at that point like scaling and growing really fast. How do we bring more brands in? And then on Monday, like that started this partnership that is just our sales have doubled there every single year the last couple of years, and it's been super fun. So I think that that brand question is big, right? It's like, who's your core consumer? What do they need? How do we help solve that need? And then how do we show up and meet them where they're at? And so for us, it really started with a small run club test that turned out to be a very big success, and then showing up to races, because we're all trying to figure out how do we continue to do what we love for longer. And the running community is very, right. We talk a lot. We're always looking for what can help this whole process go a little smoother, go a little better. And then we tell our friends about it. And so, right, I think that for us, let's show up and be a part of it. Like, let's be, we have a team of runners. I've added more runners to the team, and let's tell the story about how we use this with ourselves. And hopefully we can kind of help some people along the way, and then share some other cool stories.
So tangibly, going back to the first part of that question, how do you convince executives or the board that investing in events, investing in community is going to be worth it when it's harder to demonstrate? Like, we spent $1 here, we got $3 back. If you put $1 into a sponsorship, code usage shows $3 back. Great, success. Keep pouring gasoline on the fire. On the brand marketing side, it's a little bit harder to quantify that. And I think a lot of the reason I'm asking this question is because I think so many brands forget about the fact that you need the brand marketing to support the performance marketing. The performance marketing will not work, or will eventually, like, the well will go dry if you don't provide the air cover of brand marketing. How do you convince those above you that that's necessary?
Yeah, I mean, and it's an ongoing conversation. And that was a big thing early on, because the first year we did it unbudgeted. And so then the 20,000 samples we sent to Hood to Coast started a larger conversation. And I was like, oh yeah, no, we didn't really budget for that. But here's what came out of it, right? And so, and one of the things that we were really looking at is, if you look at the brands that like have disrupted and done big things that have scaled, they all show up in the world, right? So I think there was some of that early, like Kind Bar was handing out Kind Bars everywhere. Red Bull's everywhere. Red Bull's also massive, but they still show up and they do things. Cliff Bar was doing the same thing. And then if I look at like other brands, I mean, I was introduced to Liquid Death at Lollapalooza and at concerts. And it's like, what is this? Is that water in a can? And it's like,
the beer?
Yeah. And so, right. So they're showing up. And so like, right, they found their community. They showed up there. And so like, there's this piece of, it's very hard to prove, right? Like, we've just handed out all these samples. We've gotten some emails. We've given out some promo codes. People they can't always tie out, right? Like, I might get, 50 promo code usages out of a Hood to Coast race where we use 20,000 samples. But at the same time, our D2C sales were going up. Our Amazon sales were going up. We were picking up new run store distribution. Our sales on the feed are growing. So we had this evidence it's been kind of hard. Directionally, yeah, you can do it, but it's been kind of hard to tie. Now, the nice thing then too about with D2C sales and Amazon and our own website is I can track like, right, where we ship the stuff to, what zip codes is the product going to, have I been active in this area? New York was recently something I was digging into. It's like, hey, we're doing stuff in New York all the time. How is this city compared to Nashville or Dallas or Portland or LA? Like, we do some stuff, but not as much stuff, and our sales there have been exponentially growing. And then also, like, over the course of the last couple of years, we've, gained thousands and thousands of emails, tens of thousands of emails through different events and partnerships. And those emails and the purchases that have come out of those emails are 55% more valuable. The sales from the running community in these events are 55% higher than the other emails. So like, right, we know that like this group of consumers spends more, they're looking for recovery more, their purchase cycle extends further. But it's taken a while for that data to build and show up, and these trends to kind of show up. There's a little bit of a lag. Whereas like in performance, you're right. Like, I was looking at my ROAS on Amazon for sales last week, right? And I can track it daily. And so I can always kind of come back to that, and I can adjust it here and there. Whereas like, right, the events and stuff, but that's where that long-term brand value, the long-term growth comes in, right? We can get those quick hits with the performance, but then you're right, you're still just a product. But if we want to really connect and have that long-term brand loyalty and differentiate ourselves versus other recovery products and other tart cherry juice brands, like that's where, right, that keeps you meet us out in the world, you try our products, you see how it fits into your life. That then starts to have this really meaningful impact that gives us that ability to scale. And for you to also want to talk about Cheribundi or wear our merch or do these other things that, help us grow versus just being another product, because there's a million great products out there, right? And like there's other tart cherry juice brands, there's lots of different things, but we've tried to position ourselves in this athletic arena.